Hello,
Oh, hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm going to pause the record. All right, roll call. We have Lynette Tornowski, Jim Hale, and Deborah Howe present, and we have Andrea Luker here from the Trees and Landscape Committee. She's going to start us off with a presentation regarding plans for the community center and Palisades.
Great. And Deborah, let's see. Let me see if I can. Oh, yeah, I can. Let's see. Perfect. I'm going to screen share. All right. I'm not going to read this, and I'm not going to even have you read it, but I'm going to scroll down. Let's see.
I've already read it.
Oh, good. It is on it is on the LOCAC website. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. So the Tree and Landscape Committee. There we go. So the Tree and Landscape Committee did a project a couple of months ago, probably in January, excuse me, on the very corner of Palisades and Los Osos Valley Road, right by the community park there. And you can see that on the, you can see the area, it was by the Red Barn, and we planted that area that's, actually, let me see, I'll put this area here. We planted this area, and that went really well, and it was a great project. And we have a lot of, we had a couple of other groups involved: Los Osos Bare Roots, Los Osos Rotary, the Los Osos Garden Club, and it went really well. So we've been kind of racking our brain at the Tree and Landscape Committee with what we can do before the HCP is approved. One of our members, Tim Rockdy, was involved with the Tree and Landscape Committee prior to me being involved, and they're really excited about the El Moro path and working on landscaping on the El Moro path. But that can't be done until the Habitat Conservation Plan is completed, which is, I'll just say, imminent. So one of the things we talked about was, can we make our goal is to basically beautify the areas that people see in Los Osos, the thoroughfares, the main attractions in Los Osos. How can we make those better? And Celebrate Los Osos has done a fair amount of that work, and that's really great. It's so nice to see. And so that's one of the things that we're thinking about. So this project was discussed a couple of meetings in a row. And what we want to do is plant some low shrubs and ground cover along Los Osos Valley Road, where you see those red arrows. There's probably 100 feet of naked dirt there that's fairly ugly. And then we also want to plant some trees along Palisades from Los Osos Valley Road to the library, and similar to what are planted, and that's depicted by the white arrows, similar to what's planted along Palisades, depicted by the yellow arrows. So we met with County Public Works because both these projects are within the right-of-way. So we met with County Public Works on July 7th. Mike Tabaris, who is actually no longer he's still with County Public Works, but he's doing something else now. So we met with him and we talked a little bit about these two projects, and he was thumbs up on these projects, these concepts. And so the next step is to take this to the Tree and Landscape Committee, which will be on Thursday, and then take it to LOCAC. The reason we're coming to the Transportation Committee, besides just happy to be here, is that we also included in the proposal the concept of, and I'm hesitant to say the word improve, but to make sure that we retain the trail, and we're calling it a trail, along those white arrows outside the fence on the east side of the fence line. There's a trail there now, and we want to retain that, and we want to maybe even make it a little bit better. And that's the second phase of the project. So Deborah, I know Deborah and your committee have been working a lot on trails and connecting Los Osos Valley Road to, parts north. And so she suggested, why don't you come and talk a little bit about this project? And I said, sure, I will. So that's kind of the project. First phase is to plant. Second phase is to work on that trail. And you'll note that I'm calling it a trail because if it's a trail, it doesn't trigger ADA. So we're keeping it as a trail. Eventually, we would love to see that as a walkway and, you know, maybe a meandering walkway and more than decomposed granite. But at this point, we just like to improve it. It's there now. It's kind of funny. There's probably 10 to 12 feet of right of way there now. It's there now, but we want to make sure that we retain that. So that's what we're doing. This proposal is on the LOCAC website. I'm happy to answer questions. I don't have species particularly for the shrubs and the ground cover, but I do believe that we've indicated that we're thinking about arbutus for the trees. So with that, happy to answer questions. We're talking about it on Thursday night, and I'll turn it back over to you, Deborah.
Yeah, so I had asked you the question about if you would be planting the trees on the west side of the fence, because not knowing what trees you were thinking about planting, I was wondering if there would be roots growing into the trail and, you know, or if the trail would be narrowed. I didn't realize there was that much right of way there.
It's pretty,
feet, I think you said.
It's pretty big. It's 10 to 12 feet. Arbutus seems to do pretty well there, and that's not set in stone. I mean, we're certainly open to suggestions on what to plant. We have Margaret Lint on our group, who's pretty savvy with plants and trees. We are planning. We are at this point planning on the east side of the fence, but you know, nothing I think is off the table in terms of consideration. I think the concern with the west side is that I believe it would probably be it may be out of the county right away, and then it triggers another county department. And then it's just like, we all know how that works, bless their hearts.
I guess when I looked at it, which I didn't actually walk it, but when I glanced at it, it seemed like the fence was closer than 10 feet. And that's really where my question came from. But
okay,
10 or 12 feet sounds like it should be sufficient to accommodate both a trail and a tree. So if that's true, then we don't have a problem.
And I'm making notes for our meeting on Thursday, Deborah.
Yeah. So we just may want to find out exactly where that fence is in regards to the road. And just to remind everybody, Palisades is where we're thinking that we would continue a trail away from the community center towards Ramona, all the way down to get to Sweet Springs and Baywood, and we had a conversation with the private property owner, actually the property manager of that property, and they were agreeable to allowing a trail that would go all the way through their property. So so this is great. It would be, you know, the beginning of the beginning for a trail. Go ahead, Jim.
I have a couple questions. So where the red arrows are, and I know this area very well. So the red arrows, would you go all the way to Ashlander's property then with trees? How far east will you go where the red arrows are?
I think that's about 100 feet, and I think it's very close to his property. It's kind of already defined by the sidewalk on one side and the street on the other. So I think as far as we can go.
Okay,
because it's apparently at some point, which I don't remember. And I've been in Osos for 30 years, but I can't remember it ever being planted, but we think it was at one point.
Okay. And then where the yellow arrows are, do you have any plans to put any additional trees there? Because some are really good and some are not so good.
At this point, no, but that could be, you know, maybe phase 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think planting trees along the white arrows is a great idea. But I think Deborah's point is an important one in terms of if you do have adequate space between that fence and the gutter to accommodate both a tree and a trail.
Okay.
But I love it. Go, you guys go. Go trees and landscape, go.
Me too.
Woohoo! Okay, well, I don't think we have any more questions about
The
it.
only other thing that I would suggest is that maybe LOCAC could do some sort of fundraising where people could donate the cost of a tree to the committee. And, it gets put in the Estero Bay News and, maybe there's a way to get these
You
trees
have
paid
some
for.
sort of arrangement, don't you, Andrea?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And Jim, that's an interesting question. So from what I understand, and this is from John Lint, who's been with the group longer than I have, is that because LOCAC and obviously the Tree and Landscape Committee, because we're part of LOCAC, is not a 501c3, we have we can accept apparently we can accept donations, but there's no benefit to the donor. So we've hooked up with Bare Roots, Los Osos Bare Roots, which John Lint is also a member of. And they have money. They're a 501c3 and they've got funds before. So we might need to massage that a little bit. And then we've also, and the name escapes me at this point. Oh, Greening Los Osos was another group. Lynette's probably familiar with them, but they were another group that was involved with tree planting. And I don't think they're functioning anymore. But my understanding is we have to kind of hook up with a 501c3 in order to make it beneficial. But yeah, that's a great idea, and especially when we get to maybe even the path stuff, because the decomposed granite and maybe a little bit of minimal site work is probably going to be a little more costly, but great ideas. And I've noted them all to share with the board.
Great. Yeah, I had heard a pitch from a startup not that long ago, which was essentially, knocking on businesses' door, but using businesses and the greening of the environment. Hey, this is your chance to, offset your carbon footprint as a business by donating to trees being put in. And they were getting a lot of traction, obviously, in other parts of the world. But, I think getting people to volunteer or donate to pay for the trees, let's see if we can make that work.
Nice.
I have a question. Andrea, have you ever dealt at all, not to my knowledge, as long as I've been there, with Celebrate Los Osos, which is a 501c3?
So thanks for that, Lynette. And I failed to mention that when we met with we met with the county on July 7th, we had a representative from Celebrate Los Osos and a representative from the Garden Club. So, and they're both very interested. So we're trying to, and it's a huge point that I forgot to talk about. So thank you for that. We're trying to work with all those people to coordinate this. So they may very well be willing to, take donations for trees and then funnel the money through us. It wasn't Pandora, it was another woman, and her name is on my list that's not right with me.
Not Beth Kreiser?
No, it wasn't Beth. Beth and I worked together on the Save Quest Inlet stuff. Yeah, it was I described her at a meeting not too long ago about a woman that's probably in her 60s with long gray hair, and the comment I got back was that describes a lot of people. But yeah, John kept a list of all the people that were there. We probably had 11 people that showed up with that meeting with the county staff. So yeah, I'll get her name. She was lovely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And John's right. We're a 501c4, not a 501c3. So the donations would not be tax deductible, but sounds like there are plenty of 501c3s that we could partner with.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, cool. Well, if you're done and we have no more questions, then we'll let you go.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm gonna sign off. Please don't take it as non-interest. It's just I'm gonna relax a little bit.
Good. Enjoy.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. So back on our agenda, just to let you know, I've been in touch with the Safe Trek people, and we are expecting to get our safety assessment in August. Fingers crossed. Which will be very helpful.
Good job.
And then on Thursday, Jake Hudson from the county transportation, he is a planner and projects manager. He's going to be coming to our general LOCAC meeting and discussing the corridor study of Los Osos Valley Road by the county. He will be discussing the overall goals, the schedule, public engagement strategy, and tools, and to hear any comments that we might have. So
This is the LOCAC meeting on the 27th.
correct.
Yeah, I won't be able to make it.
So no, you can't make it, but I'll be there.
Okay.
So that's great. I can't wait for them to really get going on that corridor study. And then last on the agenda is just a little follow-up that I thought would be interesting. I wanted to share. When we did our face-to-face meeting regarding safety, and people were invited to come and talk about their concerns and their safety issues on the roads and intersections of Los Osos, I did reach out to a woman. She has a young family. She has kids that go to school. And she told me her son rode his bike to the middle school. And they live up in like Bayview Heights. And I said, well, how does he get to school on his bike? I'm really curious to know. So this is how her child with 3 of his friends would bike to school at Los Osos Middle School. They would come down the residential streets to Los Osos Valley Road. They would go past the community center, and then they would go through the back lots of the grocery outlet and Starbucks to get to Los Olivos Street. Okay, now it's early in the morning, so Starbucks would be open, but the others probably aren't open. So they're kind of like getting off the road, getting off the street and going through the parking lots and getting to Los Olivos Street. Then they follow Los Olivos Street until Mountain View Drive. They turn left on Mountain View Drive, and they go on Mountain View until Ramona and 18th Street. They turn right on 18th Street, and then they turn right on Pismo Street. And then, of course, they would take the tunnel to get to Los Osos Middle School. So.
And then ride their bikes up the little path on the west side of the school grounds.
The biggest problem she said they had was when the traffic light at the community center was not working and it was flashing red all the time. And she said they had a terrible time because the traffic was not reliably stopping. And so they were like waiting. They didn't know when they could really cross the road there to get to the other side. And she said it was pretty scary for them. It's interesting that they feel comfortable going behind the stores rather than being on the street, but not a surprise, right? And we were talking 9th Street, 10th Street, where there's a lot of traffic, I'm sure, especially in the morning. And then one of the other intersections that we got a lot of comments about was Los Osos Valley Road and Pine. There's Pine Street, and then there's Alexander right nearby, and there's the United Methodist Church. And again, I discovered things that I would not have known if I hadn't talked to somebody who has children. But she said that is a serious bottleneck there because you have the Scouts meet at the church, choir meets at the church, people go to the karate school in Baywood. And so trying to turn on Alexander or turn onto Pine Street, because there's only a small distance between those two roads and a very small turn opportunity to turn. So if you wanted to turn left on Alexander and you're getting in the left turn lane to turn left onto Alexander to go up, and people on Alexander are trying to go to Pine Street, and so they want to come down onto Los Osos Valley Road, there's a jam up there. And she said it gets really, really hairy. And this is where the activities are for children.
Well, and plus you have a crosswalk that's on the west end of Alexander that comes down to the church
With no lights.
with no lights, and it's not white, it's yellow. And so half the time people don't notice it. And I've seen people step into that crosswalk, just like the one on Petro, and cars come barreling through and they have to retreat. I mean, it's very scary. And I've experienced that bottleneck delivering meals, and then trying to come, back here, coming up through Pine and just turning right on Los Osos Valley Road can take quite a while. So it is a serious bottleneck there, but my concern, in a car, you just sit and wait, but when you're a pedestrian or a middle schooler on a bike, those, you don't have that real world experience sometimes, and it can be very scary. And people are flying oftentimes on that part of Los Osos Valley Road heading east or west.
So exactly. And then if the turn lane gets too backed up and then people are stopping on Los Osos Valley Road, she said what people often do is that there's a dirt area to the right.
Mhm.
And so they just go around. They go off the road into the dirt to skirt around any cars that might be waiting to actually get to turn, which is crazy, right?
Well,
Illegal.
I've been known to do that, I confess.
Bad boy.
Are any of these things going to be addressed in this corridor study or the safe track thing? Or is any of this part of that?
Yes. Yes. And that's why we keep shining a light on these issues. The corridor study goes from Foothill all the way to Pecho, but we want them to really concentrate on the Los Osos aspect of that. And so we're really just teeing up these areas for Jake so that when they do come in and do the study and they do the public outreach, we're going to be able to really give them the input that they need to figure out how to improve these areas, because it's really bad. It's not going to get better.
So I thought the corridor study was going to go all the way into MDO.
Just Pecho and Rodman.
Okay.
It only goes to Rodman.
Okay.
So. All right, that's all I've got.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Short and sweet.
I'm
You
so
agree,
sorry more
Lynette?
people couldn't be here. It was such a good meeting.
Yeah, it was good. But that's all
Short,
right. They can watch it.
Sweet.
True.
All right,
So,
thank you both.
You're welcome. End recording, and let's see how Lynette is doing.